Everybody calls Heat Michael Mann's masterpiece, but on this list, it's not even number one. So what beats it? We'll get there. But to understand this ranking, you have to understand what Mann's best films are really about. A man whose whole identity is his craft and the loneliness it causes. That thread runs through all 5 films, and it starts at number 5 with a man whose gift of getting inside a killer's head is exactly what's destroying him. At number 5, I have a film I recently watched for the first time and also did a review of, Manhunter. And this film is all about the mood it creates. That cold synth score, the icy blues and white imagery, the whole thing playing like a nightmare you can't quite wake from. But what I keep coming back to is Will Graham, the protagonist, because the film is really smart about the way his so-called gift is presented. Graham doesn't sympathize with these killers. He doesn't feel for them. What he can do is reconstruct what they experience. He can stand where they stood, he can see what they saw, and it makes him sick because he can experience what went through their heads. That's the distinction the film never loses. Getting inside his monster's head is not the same thing as sympathizing with them. And Graham pays for this difference. You watch it hollow him out in real time through the film. There's that scene on the plane. There's crime scene photos spread out across his tray table, and he's so numb to them he just falls asleep, while the girl beside him takes one look and is horrified. That's the cost in a single image. Even Jack Crawford talks about waiting for the next murder so they can have fresh evidence and be right there when it happens to try and get this killer. There's not a word for the person who has to die first for that evidence. That's the machine Graham is trapped inside, and that's why it was so hard for him to come back at the beginning of the film. But why do I only have it at number 5? Look, this film really surprised me, and I think it's a great addition to any Michael Mann library, but on a list this stacked, a few things hold it at the bottom. It's a bit slow to get going. It takes a while before the case really hits and has its hooks in you. Tom Noonan is genuinely unsettling as the killer, but I think we spent a touch too long with them. And here's the real kicker. This is the movie that put Hannibal Lecter on screen for the very first time, and he's barely in it. That's not a knock on Brian Cox, who's chilling in the handful of scenes he gets. It's that the film never quite utilizes its sharpest weapon, and everything above this only gets sharper. At number 4, I have Collateral, and this might be Michael Mann's most controlled film he's ever made. One night, one cab, one killer, 5 hits. Tom Cruise plays against type, silver-haired, cold blue eyes, and just charismatic enough for you to almost like him, despite how evil and psychotic he really is. The plot is simple and it moves like a blade. There is no fat on this puppy. And the way Mann shoots LA at night, the whole city just turns into this kind of lawless jungle. It's after dark and all the big predators are coming out to play, and Vincent's the worst of them. He doesn't care about anyone. He's just there to do his job. He's my thesis taken to its endpoint. A man so completely reduced to his craft that there's nothing human left underneath. Now watch how it ends. He dies on a metro train, and he's already told you nobody will even notice the body. And he's correct. He was competent. He was lethal, and yet totally alone. So why is it only 4? Because as great as it is, Collateral's deliberately small. It does one thing and does it just about perfectly. But the films above this are reaching for more. At number 3, I have a bit of a surprise, I think, for most people, The Last of the Mohicans. And this is the odd one out. It's 1757, the French and Indian War is going on, we're out in the frontier, and that's one of the reasons I love it. I love historical films, and this is set in a time period that we don't really see very often in cinema. And what really gets me is that this is about 4 different films all in one. We have a war film, we have romance, we have an action film, and then we have straight up drama. Mann never drops any of it. And Daniel Day-Lewis as Hawkeye is a guy completely at home in this world. He's totally capable, totally in his element. And for once, Michael Mann lets one of his expert loner types actually find something worth living for instead of ending up alone. But come on, the thing that really stays with you is that ending scene. The chase across the mountainside going after Magwa's group, almost no words, just the score carrying everything. I think the Trevor Jones and Randy Edelman theme here might be one of the greatest pieces of music ever put in a film, and Mann just turns it loose and lets it run the whole sequence. You don't need anything else. If you've seen this movie once, I promise you can still hear it. That's the scene nobody forgets. So why isn't this film higher? Because at the end of the day, Mann's a crime guy. That's where he's a master. And as great as this film is, you can kind of feel him figuring it out as he goes. Everything's there, the characters, the music, the scenery, but it's missing that last bit of control that makes his top 2 untouchable. And here's the thing most people miss. Hawkeye gets his happy ending, sure, but it's called The Last of the Mohicans for a reason. Chingachgook watches his own son Uncas die, and he's left as the last of his entire people. So even here, in Mann's big romantic epic, somebody still ends up completely alone. He just can't help himself. In the top 2, nobody walks away clean. But real quick, if you're digging this review, please subscribe. It really helps the channel grow. And at number 2, I have the film that I think most people would have at number 1, Heat. And look, I get why people would have this as number 1. This is Michael Mann swinging for the fences. It's big, it's sprawling, it's gorgeous, it's quotable. The shootouts are some of the best ever filmed. That diner scene with De Niro and Pacino is just 2 titans across a table from each other, and you can't look away. That scene is set up so beautifully in the film, and when it finally hits, it's cathartic. You've been waiting for that confrontation. It is one of the greatest ever. Everybody in this film is competent. The plot clicks, and it just works. And when this movie hits, it hits. And it's the purest version of everything this whole list is about. Macaulay's Code. Don't let yourself get attached to anything you can't walk out on in 30 seconds flat if you feel the heat around the corner. And that's the thesis of every Michael Mann film in a single line. 2 men who are the absolute best at what they do, and it costs them every real connection they've got. So why don't I have this at number 1? Because I think the film, as incredible as it is a tad padded and a touch too long. You could shave 20, maybe 30 minutes off of this and end up with a much tighter, sharper film. Hannah's home life, the stepdaughter subplot, it kind of drags and I really didn't care much about it. The women in this film are written way thinner and have much less to do. And let's be honest, this is kind of a common Michael Mann problem. And the score is fine, but it's so understated I couldn't hum you a note of it. It's a masterpiece with some fat on it, which is exactly why the film at number 1 beats it. Because it does almost everything Heat does, the loneliness, the code, the cost, the shootouts, the heist, and it doesn't waste a single minute. So here it is, the film that I think beats Heat in Michael Mann's library, Thief. Let me paint you a picture of how I even discovered Thief, because I only saw it for the first time a few years ago. I watched William Friedkin's Sorcerer, and I was completely blown away by that film, especially because of the score by Tangerine Dream. So I decided to seek what other films they've scored. And I came across Thief, I watched it, and from the very first opening shot, I knew I was in for the treat. And that first 10-minute opening sequence of him going through the heist, it's just the city at night. Rain-slick streets, neon bleeding across wet buildings, James Caan working a safe with total precision, his crew around him, and that score building and building until it's blaring. There's no exposition, there's no hand-holding. Mann just trusts you to watch a master work, and I was hooked instantly. And Ken isn't magnetic as Frank. He's a criminal, sure, but think back to Macaulay from Heat. Macaulay's a stone-cold killer. He tells Hannah straight to his face he will not hesitate, not for 1 second, to put him down. And when that bank job falls apart, he has no problem turning all of downtown LA into a war zone. Frank's not that guy. He's a thief, sure, but he's not a straight-up killer. He knows his way around a gun because the work demands it. But all he really wants is to get in, get the score, and get out. And the only people he shoots are the ones who come at him first. And here's the part I find kind of haunting. As different as these 2 men are, they both walk away from the women they love in the end. 2 completely different criminals, same exact ending. That's pure Michael Mann. And then there's the villain, and this is what I love. Leo looks like somebody's grandpa, right up until the second he calmly threatens to burn your entire world to the ground. The planning, the competence, every heist built like clockwork. It's all here, fully formed in Mann's very first film. So why do I have it at number 1? I think Frank's got this whole perfect life mapped out. The wife, the kid, the house, the normal life he was never allowed to have. And he justifies a lot of what he's doing, and he doesn't have time to do it the old-fashioned way. And when he realizes he can't have it on his own terms, that someone will always own a piece of him, he doesn't go down swinging, and he doesn't ride off into the sunset. He blows it all up. He destroys everything he built and walks away with nothing, because the one thing he won't surrender is control of his life. I think that's the most honest ending Michael Mann's ever filmed. It's not heroic, it's not satisfying or conclusive the way Heat is. It's just true. And the whole thing runs lean and tight. There's no padding, there's no subplots, there's no fat to this film. It does everything Heat does and never wastes a second. That's why I think it beats Heat, and that's why I think it's Michael Mann's best film. So there it is, my top 5 Michael Mann films. We have Manhunter at 5, Collateral at 4, The Last of the Mohicans at 3, Heat at 2, and Thief as his best film. And if there's one thing tying all these films together, it's that Michael Mann makes these movies about these men who are the best in the world at what they do and how it affects everything around them. That's the thread that runs through every film, and it's why he's one of the best filmmakers of all time. Now, if you like this review, or you think I'm dead wrong and Heat should be number 1, leave a comment and let me know why. So do me a favor, hit that subscribe button and keep coming back, because I have a lot more of these discussions coming, and it really helps the channel grow more than you think. Until next time, stop scrolling, start watching.